Hello, this is Ahad Hashmani, here with the TED Talk of the Year. Thank you. Has discriminate... Thank you. You can stop now. Has discrimination stopped? Is it still going on? Over time, discrimination has evolved in various ways. Some of these ways were positive and some were negative. The three questions that will help me to better understand how much discrimination has evolved over time are the laws in the past, the location where most discrimination happens, and what races and genders were affected the most. Okay, so for the laws in the past, basically in the past there were a few laws that were added to stop discrimination. The most important of these laws was the law that is known as the Law of 1965. This law stated that any person who would not allow a particular person, race, or gender to vote would be punished. This law also allowed any race to vote. What pushed this law into action were two major civil rights acts. Basically, what happened was a sheriff abused a black man with the intent to stop him from voting. The other aspect was when a black army veteran was stopped by a mob of white individuals so he wouldn't vote. There were just a few states in the United States who have taken legal action against restrictions when it comes to voting. These few states are Maine, Florida, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Wisconsin, as well as North Dakota. Before the 1965 law, Mississippi used to be one of the states with the most discrimination. Now, it is not. Although discrimination has stopped in these few named states, almost all the rest of the states still have little to no punishment for people who are discriminating people and not letting them vote because of their particular race or gender. So really, what races and genders were which ones were discriminated the most? The people or races and genders that were discriminated most were the African Americans, then just women in general, then the Hispanics. There was an African American war veteran who I talked about before. He was attempting to vote, and the individual was not able to vote, unfortunately, because there was a mob of white men not letting. Basically, they blocked his path and they pushed him out of the way so he wouldn't vote. On March 7th, in 1965, about 600 black and white civil rights protesters, they passed through Selma and they were met on the other side by a large force of state troopers. And basically, the state troopers, they asked the people marching for civil rights to turn around and just go back, but they were protesting and they didn't go back. The state troopers started attacking. They started knocking down people, beating them with clubs, and this was all filmed by TV news cameras and showed this was a very shocking thing for the American public. Not only were these people affected, but the politicians were also affected. Because let's say 50% of the people who could have voted didn't actually vote because of discrimination. If those 50% of people were to vote, the outcome could have been different. We could have had new presidents. So do you really want discrimination in voting? Discrimination in voting? Discrimination, voting, discrimination! So with that note, I would really like to thank you all for listening to my TED Talk, and I would encourage you all to help so that when we grow up and we have the world in our hands, we can fix problems like these.